Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. It really does show that communication is a really, really important part of teaching and learning. And it's vital that parents do communicate with the schools to find out more about their children's education. I was a primary school teacher for 27 years. I've taught all subjects in the national curriculum across the board for children from age 7 to 11, and also latterly I taught in Key Stage 1 as well, which was the younger age groups. Whilst I was teaching, I also studied to be a special needs coordinator, and that put me into a senior leadership role where I was responsible for the learning assistants throughout the school, and also for assisting those children who had difficulties learning, or maybe conditions that prevented them from learning as easily as their peers. At the moment, I have my own business and I'm an educational author. I've written a series of books for Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2, which have been published, and also novels too. A bit about me: I'm married, I've got a son who is currently studying for a master's in paleontology at a UK university. So I'm here today, hopefully, to be able to help you with any issues or questions that you may have. And I'm looking forward to speaking to you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jackie. So yes, please do keep submitting your questions, but we've got a few to kick off our session. So there's a couple of questions around understanding what teachers mean when they say that a child is doing well. Willow covered this a little bit in her session, but it'd be great to get your perspective, Jackie. So my child's teacher keeps saying that they're doing well. What does this mean, or what can I do about that?
Okay, one thing that sprung to mind was my head teacher always used to say to us that when you have a parents' evening, the parents should be able to come to the meeting and not be shocked or surprised by anything that the teacher is actually telling you about your child. So you should have a really good understanding of where your child is at, progress-wise, achievement-wise, socially, and also emotionally in the school. And if you feel at any point throughout the year that you have a question about any of those areas of your child's learning or your child's well-being, then my advice to you would be to ask the teacher for more clarification. What does well actually mean in this situation? Is my child doing as well as the peers in the class? Is my child doing well but could be helped by doing something specific in different areas? Does my child need to be more social? Does my child ask particular questions that you are concerned about? Because there should be nothing that is a surprise when you go to a parents' evening.
Yeah, as you were saying that, I was reminded of friends that I have who have been teachers for a while, and they've been given similar advice about that. Nothing should be surprising to a parent. Okay, so a linked question then, but in Hong Kong, it's very common for children to be ranked within their class in different subjects. So they know exactly where they are relative to their peers all the time. Like they know I am 5th in English, but I am 3rd in maths. Is there any kind of comparison in the UK? And if not, as I am not aware of anything that's exactly like this. How can parents know where their child is at?
Okay, so that is one of the things I think that teachers really dislike being asked in England, in the UK, because of the politeness and the cultural aspect of not wanting to offend, not wanting to pigeonhole, if you like, or put children in a specific band, because we all know that children change day to day and they can slip back as well as suddenly progress quite dramatically. So it's never a comfortable situation for a teacher to be in, to be actually asked, where is my child in the class? And that sounds really a bizarre thing, because you do naturally want to know where your child fits in with the rest of their peers. So I would go in with a specific question and say, if they were to sit their SATs now, or if they were to have an assessment now in science or in maths, where do you think they would be? Do you think they would be at the expected age of achievement? Do you think they would be further advanced than that? Or do you think they've got more work to do? And if they have more work to do, what work do they need to do? What do they need to do to catch up or be at least in line with their peers?
Yeah, I think that's really useful. And I think particularly thinking about children who are maybe new to the UK, teachers may approach that question with the perspective of, well, that they're new. So, they're doing well for where they are. And it's not fair to compare them with children who've, been in this school for 5 years already. And so it's using, it's, as you say, coming to the conversation as a parent with a touchstone, something you can say, well, if they did this test now, would they get 100%, 80%, 50%? Okay, and what are they missing? Whether that's skills or knowledge, because then as a parent, you can work out, right, well, how can I support my child either with additional study, tuition, or the school, go back to the teacher and go, okay, well, how can the school help to support them bridging those gaps?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. How about, we've got a question here specifically about special educational needs. So I think my child may have special educational needs, disability. They have difficulty concentrating, but the teacher doesn't agree with me. What can I do?
The first point of contact would always be the class teacher, definitely, in a situation like that. And if you feel that your concerns are not being listened to, or you really do feel that you have some sort of evidence that that you could back this up, this thought or this feeling with, then your next port of call would be to arrange a meeting with the special needs coordinator through the office. You can't usually at primary school just walk into the school and expect us to see them. You would have to make an appointment, usually through the office, to speak to the special needs coordinator. But it would be definitely the class teacher who would be the first point of contact. And then if you're not satisfied with the answer that the class teacher is giving, then I would say to them as well, I would like to just speak to the special needs coordinator if that's possible. And then they should be able to arrange that either through them or direct you to the school office to make an appointment.
Mm. And to give a bit of extra context, it's at least my understanding that most schools will have a member of staff, a member of usually teaching staff, there might be a class teacher as well, who is this special needs coordinator role. And they have, as Jackie mentioned earlier about her own experience, additional training to identify ways to, and have training to help them to support students with special educational needs and disabilities. So again, another potential difference to Hong Kong schools, that support for special educational needs is more built into the whole school environment. Okay, I think we've perhaps got time for one more question.
Well, in fact, I'm just going to say that we've got quite a few good questions come in. So I think if we could ask a couple more, if you're happy to stay on late, that is fine. We'll send out a recording afterwards. And also Jackie will be answering some in written format if there's any that are a bit too specific for the whole group. I think we've got time for a couple more if you all are happy to stay on.
Yeah, definitely. So I think we've talked a lot in this session about academics, but perhaps a question then about more of the social and emotional side of things, particularly if you've got a child who's recently joined the school. If you're a parent that you're concerned, my child, I think my child hasn't made any friends. I don't think my child has any friends at school. They never mention anyone. What do I do?
I think again, the first port of call would be the class teacher to find out if they have made any definite social connections within the class. Usually the teacher or the teaching assistant will be able to advise on that, because very often the primary school teachers or learning assistants are out on the playground and they can watch the children outside making their social connections. And if it's something that perhaps the teacher or learning assistant hasn't actually really focused on, then that could be something that then clues up for then, can you please watch on the playground to see if she is or he is talking to somebody or playing with somebody? Is he sitting outside on the bench a lot of the time on his own? Those are the sorts of questions to ask. Also, if you would like to try and make some of the connections, you could perhaps try asking the class teacher who your child actually talks to most or seems to get along with most, and then a connection perhaps then could be forged with that child's parent. There could be an invitation then to go round with the parent for tea or something, then to encourage the social interaction outside of school as well as inside school, so that becomes stronger and becomes more trusted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would say that those things also happen in secondary school, where teachers are very aware of social connections between students, even though there perhaps isn't the same eyes on the playground sort of thing in secondary school. There are many different teachers who will teach a child in secondary school, and they will definitely be aware of all of the social ins and outs of the class. Okay, a question here about homework. So in Hong Kong, it's very typical to receive lots and lots of homework. I know when I teach children, sometimes I ask them, "Oh, did you do anything fun this weekend?" And the response is, "No, I was doing homework all weekend." And in the UK, far less homework is given, far less in secondary school and also in primary school. But what can a parent do if they feel concerned about the fact that their child isn't getting very much homework, and they want to be able to stretch them? They feel their child is gifted, but not being stretched by the work from school and the homework they're getting.
Sorry.
Very often,
Sorry to disturb, Ceri. There's a background about this question. Like the parents want to check. In the UK, is it not easy to define a child as ADHD or not being able to focus? Because obviously, not being able to focus affects homework a lot. But then when the child comes to the UK, even though he has less homework, he still finds it very difficult to finish. And on the other hand, the teacher says that he hasn't got this problem. Even though the parent mentioned it is difficult for the child to focus, but then the teacher doesn't agree with her. And that's why the parents would like to ask where she can get some help for students like this. And also, obviously, the child might be gifted in other aspects. And is there any resources for develop his other aspects, other gifted aspects? I think that's the background of the question.
Okay, so connected more to that question we had earlier about identifying special educational needs.
Yeah, so I mean, as I say, the first port of call is definitely the class teacher, is definitely a conversation that you would not have at the beginning or the end of a day. You would arrange to have a meeting with the class teacher so that you could sit down on your own with them and discuss why you think your child has this specific need or this specific issue. And then, as I say, if the teacher shares your concerns or doesn't share your concerns, then the next step will be a meeting with the special educational needs coordinator in the school, who is then qualified to actually do some testing to find out whether some of the issues are related to ADHD or whether it is a question of focusing or not focusing because of difficulties with language barriers or other social issues even that may be affecting their progress. And then that the issues can then be sort of either ruled in, ruled out, or they can come together with some kind of solution to the issue, whereby maybe it could be something like, okay, we need to try and get them to finish working more quickly, so let's perhaps use timed exercises, or you know, try and find a variety of ways that child can actually complete exercises and see whether that is possible, and then go from there. So it's kind of a step-by-step process to just really unpick what the issue is. Yeah.
I think that side of things, that it's there won't necessarily be an instant fix, which is obviously frustrating as a child, for a parent, seeing their child go through that. But that because the school really wants to understand, as you say, where this is coming from, so that then they can support in other ways. Because if it is due to ADHD, undiagnosed ADHD, that will affect so many other areas of the child's educational, social development, and the school wants to be able to support them with that in the best possible way. But that does take time to, as you say, unpick and work out, and what works for one child might not work for another.
Absolutely. And also special educational needs coordinators have an army of professionals at their fingertips. So if they feel that the child needs more professional input or more professional support, then they will contact usually a specialist teacher with knowledge about ADHD or dyslexia or autism, and then get their advice as well and their input. But again, like you say, it takes time. It's not an instant fix, and it is something that will take a little while to unpick it and iron out.
And in terms of this child, or all children really in school, in terms of developing special interests or special talents, whether you're gifted in you have a very creative mind, or you're gifted in music or in sports, could you maybe just talk a little bit about what there is in schools to support those kinds of things, or what opportunities there are maybe for special interests or talents?
Usually, the class teacher has a really good handle on their class as a whole, especially as the year wears on. They find out what special interests their class have, the individuals in their class. And very often there are extracurricular activities that children can join if they're good at sport, if they're good at cooking, if they're good at creative writing. There's a variety, usually at primary school, of extracurricular activities that the class teacher can suggest that the child joins to help with their talents. Also, I think because of the way that the national curriculum is, the primary school curriculum is absolutely brilliant for being able to identify children who have specific talents in things other than literacy and numeracy, because we're not all gifted in those areas, and some children are much more creative, much more musical, much better at sport, and it's not just the academic areas, it's other areas of the curriculum too. And that's what the national curriculum does. It actually affords the children the chance to shine in other areas.
And this extends up into secondary as well, with gifted and talented programs, extracurriculars, and then choosing subjects to study for GCSE, etc. Thank you very much, Jackie. That was really useful responses.